They say having a shot of scotch with the piper is tradition, but smooth. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 11th Annual Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Induction Dinner. My name is Bruce Lupke. I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for the evening. I've seen the sport of softball from a lot of different views over the years. I've covered the sport in my role as sports director at CKLQ Radio here in Brandon. I've played the sport, not only growing up with it, but also with a couple of different teams through the years in the Brandon Commercial Men's Fastball League. And now I get to see most of the games played from behind the plate as umpire-in-chief of our Westman Zone for Softball Manitoba, and last year at the Canadian Midget Boys Championship in Fredericton, New Brunswick. The speaker has worn many hats over the years, and tonight will wear many hats as well. He's the Deputy Mayor for the City of Brandon. We'll bring greetings on behalf of the City of Brandon. He's President of the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Committee, so he'll also bring greetings on their behalf. And he's also Chairperson of the Brandon Host Committee for tonight's event. Please welcome Mr. Murray Blight. You still only get 2 minutes, Mark.
What a guy. How about, first of all, a big round of applause for Bruce Lupke, CKLQ. As Bill said, it's certainly a pleasure on behalf of the three hats I wear. It's almost like being a utility player. I never was any good at that, but it's a pleasure on behalf of Mayor Sheriff Director Hurst and my fellow colleagues at the City of Brandon Council to have the opportunity to host the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame event. Being fortunate being inducted into the hall and seeing people being inducted to glorify the years of the event, and the city is very proud to see that we have opportunity to be able to host the event here in the city of Brandon, our Keystone Center, and certainly welcome you and who travel far and wide to come to Brandon and enjoy your stay. So once again, on behalf of Mayor Sherry, fellow councilors, welcome to the Wee City. My next hat is Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. It was Al Sharp, I remember in the hotel in Winnipeg, and sitting with Don Robbins, known as Combines, maybe we should get involved with the Softball Hall of Fame as on the board and what have you. And then through a couple of years of time, one is now as chair. But I've always said, and many people know the word team, and together everyone accomplishes more. And we have a great team of dedicated individuals, and it's all voluntary. Some go well beyond, and they know who they are, and if it wasn't for their persistence, their determination, their involvement, I hate to say it, but we probably wouldn't be here tonight. So it's absolutely my pleasure to be able to introduce to you the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame members that are looking after and all the duties that go with it. Unfortunately, three of the members aren't able to be here tonight. Past President Sharon Martin, I believe she's in Paris. Kathleen Penner is away, and Sheila Kramer. So, but there are the ones in the majority are here this evening. So, as I call their name, if they stand, and you can hold your applause until I'm finished. So, Vice President Wendell Keeler, Treasurer Les Newman, and then directors Don Combine Robbins. Gotta add a little humor to this. Billy Edwards, and a fella that needs no introduction, Al Sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody of our Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, when I was going through the program, as years go by and we're all getting younger, it was interesting to note since 2002, and according to Al will correct me if I'm wrong, trust me, that's Al Sharp. Anybody know Al Sharp? You best to know your homework, trust me. 108 individuals, am I right, Al? Thank you very much. And it's almost like an auctioneer, give me 25 and 40. Okay, here. And then we have 26 teams that have been inaugurated into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations. And you only think of ideas that might benefit is that how do we entice, how do we encourage, the previous individuals and team members to join the event? Because again, next year we'll have another one. It'll be held in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So, Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame, and last but not least is the Brandon Host Committee. Here is a group of individuals, warriors, as I say, determined every 3 years to host this prestigious event in the city of Brandon. 206, 209, and here we are at 212. And I mean, it's their dedication, their determination that we're here tonight. And it's actually a break for my fellow colleagues of Manitoba Softball to be able to come here and most part enjoy the evening, because these group of people look after the various committees. So starting off with Vice Chair this year, and if they would stand and then hold your applause till after, Jerry Stewart. Jerry Stewart, where's Jerry here? Is he? There he is. There, Jerry, and some of the responsibilities, of course, the banquet. Secretary this year and looking after memorabilia, Trudy Nay. I think some fellow by the name of Jim she's with here tonight. Treasurer and looking after banquet, Marilyn Forsyth. We had the auction committee, we brought with Kevin McMillan, Westman Softball Association, and Bruce Lupke, Brandon Softball Umpires Association. Awards, Doug Mazook. Inductees, Wayne Griffin. As I previously mentioned, Bruce Lupke, Master of Ceremonies, also Umpire-in-Chief, helping out with a number of different things. Bruce, you going to stand by? I want to hear you, see you. Okay, good to see you. Tickets, Mr. Brett Turner. Brett. There he is. Program, again, combine. You know, this fella beat the bushes this year. I think it was something like gross between Winnipeg, Brandon, Westman community, $6,700 and some dollars raised for a program. Job well done. He's just persistent. And photograph, which I'm sure Bruce is going to be in the agenda. You want to get your pictures taken tonight, Sandy Black. Those and the colleagues that helped and friends that helped, I don't want to miss anybody, but certainly making this occasion. Special thanks, of course, Westman Communications, friend of mine, colleague in the police days, Al Merkel back there, and Vince Riddell, the Westman Softball Association, and the escorts, young gals that helped at the tables, ladies selling 50-50, Westman Softball, once again, Canad Inns, and the Keystone Center. Wish you a very enjoyable, exciting inductees. Enjoy your time. Have time to visit. Have a great evening. Thank you.
A little bit jealous because Donnie Robbins apparently is the only one that gets introduced by his nickname. We do have a couple other dignitaries in attendance here tonight. I'd like to ask them to stand and be recognized. Please welcome Brandon West MLA Reg Pelwer and Arthur Burden MLA Larry McGuire. No questions, Reg. On page 6 of your program, you'll find a complete list of all the previous Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame individual and team inductees, the 108 that Murray was speaking of. I would ask that all of those previously inducted members in attendance here tonight to please stand and be acknowledged. We thank you for attending and supporting our newest group of inductees. Since our last induction dinner, we are also sorry to say that several members of our softball community have left us. We'd now ask that we observe a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you very much. The board would like to take this chance to extend their gratitude and appreciation to the sponsors who have contributed to our banquet success tonight. Please be sure to check out their advertisements found throughout the program, and thanks to all of you who have supported the Hall of Fame through the purchase of lifetime or annual memberships, as well as your support through other donations. Big thank you also extended to all who have assisted the board tonight in hosting the induction banquet and ceremony. Your continued support enables the Hall of Fame and Museum Board to hold our annual induction ceremony and operate our museum in Portage-La Prairie. The museum this year opens May the 7th, that's this coming Monday, and will remain open until the end of September. This year's softball exhibits will feature memorabilia from past and current inductees. The museum housed within the Fort Lorraine Museum, a museum which also has many other wonderful exhibits and displays. Museum is also always looking for memorabilia or anything related to softball, equipment, uniforms, jackets, crests, bats, balls, scrapbooks, newspaper clippings, photographs, etc. If you visit the museum this year, new displays are in place and new photo gallery continues to expand. Les Newman, the treasurer, will be glad to provide a tax receipt to anyone making a financial contribution tonight to the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame and Museum. Les is seated at table 3. Lifetime members are listed on page 4 of your program. On page 5 of the program information is found on the nomination process for the Hall of Fame. Nominations are reviewed by an independent selection committee which makes the final decision on the individuals and teams that will be inducted each year. Once again, the members of the committee have done an excellent job. Should you be interested in nominating an individual or a team, please pick up a nomination form found at the back of the banquet room or download a copy from Softball Manitoba's webpage. Nomination deadline each year is September 1st. On page 1 of your program, you'll find information on the operation of the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Board, the annual general meeting, scheduled for September 20th if anyone's interested to attend. Some of you may have already checked out the items in our silent auction and purchased your tickets. If you haven't done so, please take a look at the auction prizes at the back of the hall, on my right. Tickets will continue to be sold prior to the intermission and during the upcoming intermission, and then the auction will be closed. Tickets $10 for a sheet of 25, $20 for 3 sheets. Once the second half of our program begins, the winning ticket numbers will be drawn and then posted, so you can check out your winning number at the conclusion of the night. Also note that the 2013 induction ceremony will be held in Winnipeg, May 3rd, 2013 at Canadians Polo Park in Winnipeg. Before we begin with the induction ceremony, we're going to take about a 10-minute intermission. Our committee will take this time to assemble the first group of individual inductees as well as the first team to receive their awards. That being the case, first group of inductees or their representative assemble immediately near the stage to my right. That would include Patricia Lynn, Gord Wooley, Carly Andrino, Eddie Thom, and the Browns Men's Fastball Club. We're here this evening to formally induct 7 individuals and 2 teams into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame and Museum. The inductions are going to be done in 2 parts. During the first half, we will induct 1 team and 4 individuals, and then after a short intermission, 3 inductees and the second team will be inducted. You can read at length about the accomplishments of our inductees in your program. During the ceremony, we'll attempt to focus on some of the highlights or provide an anecdote that may not have been included on the museum plaque. Many of you may not have seen the awards that are presented to the inductees. The individuals and teams receive a large stained glass award in the shape of the province of Manitoba, while each team member receives a smaller stained glass award in the shape of home plate. These unique awards were designed specifically for the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame by Ruth Brownridge of Portage-La Prairie. Inductees also receive a certificate to commemorate their induction into the Hall of Fame, and a permanent plaque with photos and text about the inductees have been produced and will soon join the present members in the Hall of Fame gallery located in Portage. Laminated copies of those plaques can be ordered. Order forms are available at the memorabilia table, or from the Hall of Fame board. Laminated copies cost $25 when picked up in Winnipeg, $37 to be mailed. As well, this evening's proceedings are being recorded. DVDs can be purchased from the Hall of Fame board at a cost of $25 plus shipping. If you're interested in purchasing a DVD, please see Les Newman. Just out of curiosity, how many are watching the podium and how many are watching the screens? Kind of a split. Heavy Metal Design is in attendance at tonight's induction ceremony and has samples of Hall of Fame rings on display that can be ordered. If you're interested, be sure to visit Corey at the table display that's set up at the back of the room on the right-hand side. This also is a good time to remind you that we have an official photographer, and Murray mentioned it before. It's Sandy Black from Photography by Sandy Black. He's taking a photo of each presentation tonight. If you haven't already ordered a photo, you can see Sandy at the table to my left, close to the entrance, and see him after the induction ceremony is completed, and he would be happy to take your order. We intend to keep the ceremony moving as quickly as possible, so we're not going to be delaying it while you ask the inductee to pose for a photo. And we want to remind anyone else who wishes to take a photo of any inductee to be near the stage and have their camera ready. Murray Blight, who we introduced earlier, but in this occasion will be acting as president of the Hall of Fame, will be assisting with the awards presentation tonight. First, the criteria. A team may be inducted into the Hall of Fame for a single season achievement or long-term accomplishment. Any nomination for a long-term accomplishment must cover a minimum of 2 years and the maximum of 6 years. Nomination forms are reviewed by a selection committee that consists of 7 people, some of whom are in attendance with us tonight, and I'd like them to stand up and be recognized at this time. Grace Bouchard, Wayne Discower, Ruby Ingram, Gary Johnston, and Al Sharp. Also members of the selection committee, Peter Dick and Faye Finch. Our first team being inducted tonight is the 1959 to 1964 Browns Men's Fastball Club. For those of you that don't know, the legendary Browns Fastball Club was named after the Browns Country School located 5 miles northwest of Melita, where most of the members went to school or lived. For 25 years, they proved to be one of the most entertaining and challenging teams in southwestern Manitoba. The Browns not only had a lot of on-field success, but beginning in 1958, they began hosting one of the largest fastball tournaments in Manitoba, always held near the end of July. Players and the community organized 12 diamonds, at times as many as 67 teams, and also ensured an ample supply of soft drinks, ice cream, some 120 dozen buns, and 150 pounds of hamburger for the concession. Proceeds from that tournament were often donated to the community, and the Browns Ball Club donated money to install plexiglass in the Melita Arena, purchased picnic tables in River Park, made numerous donations to minor ball in Melita, and in at least one case used the tournament to help benefit one of their own teammates that had taken ill. Apparently, during one evening in the 1950s, the Browns Ball Club held a banquet for the players, and a fictitious poem was recited and enjoyed by all. Parker at the Bat was written by a yet unknown author that only the Browns Ball Club apparently knows. A laminated version of that poem is located on the memorabilia table at the back of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our first inductees of the evening in the teen category, the 1959 to 1964 Browns Fastball Club. Jerry Anderson.
Congratulations, Jerry.
Bill Brigden, who is represented by his wife, Marion Brigden.
Right here. Congratulations. Oh, right here, my dear. Yeah, we're going to get a snap.
Oh, really?
You betcha.
I don't take good pictures.
That's our either one. And then we'll just carry you on this way here.
Mert Coates, represented by his sister, Audrey Cairns.
Just come over this way here.
behind Bill Harmon. With Bill Harmon. Look up there.
Pardon me, this is Joyce Harmon, wife of Bill Harmon.
Hey there, young fella.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Here, I'm gonna get.
Dick Harmon. Jack Harmon, represented by son Kevin. John Harmon, represented by sister Bonnie Yeomans.
Congratulations, Bonnie. Thank you.
Missing old.
Congratulations here, my friend. Good to see you.
Stu Harmon.
Black hair.
Long hair?
Right at the heart.
Right at the heart, yeah. That's where you hit it.
That's right. Thank you.
Jim Lamport.
Never met this gentleman. Hi, Jimmy. Congratulations, buddy.
And I got the order now.
Back
Wayne
to you.
Lamport.
Congratulations. Get a in there. Just snap. We'll break the camera.
Yeah, I like it.
Never met this gentleman before.
No.
Lauren Lilly.
You bet. Congratulations, boy. Ready? Get a picture. Yeah. You want to hold your picture there?
All right.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you.
Morley Momark, represented by daughter Teresa Flannery.
Congratulations.
Jim McKinnon, represented by daughter Shirley McKinnon. Orville Parker, represented by Ted Parker.
Congratulations.
Cecil Patterson.
Congratulations. Oh, your way. Your way.
Lloyd Patterson, represented by son Bob Patterson. Harvey Renwick, represented by wife Shirley Renwick. Larry Renwick.
Hi, Larry. Congratulations. Thank you.
Lauren Richter.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks, Al.
Charlie Roblin, represented by son Greg Roblin.
Thank you.
Boyd Robertson.
Thank you.
Ernie Stewart.
Congratulations.
Sorry, Doug Snyder. Ernie Stewart, represented by son Ron Stewart.
Thank you.
Francis Tilbury, represented by daughter Shirley McIntosh. Jesse Tilbury, represented by son Doug Tilbury. Fred Watson, represented by niece Judy LaForge. Dwayne Williams.
Congratulations.
Following team members could not be with us this evening: Bill Brigden, Bill Coleman, Orville Coleman, Jim Compton, and I guess that's the only four. And last but certainly not least, Everett Barker. I'd like now to invite Everett to come forward to receive the team award and speak on behalf of the Browns men's team. Everett?
I'm as high as I can get. Good. Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here tonight to represent the Browns Fastball team of District of Melita. This is a great honor to me to be the spokesperson tonight for the team. At this time, I would like to thank all the members of this wonderful organization who have taken the information and chosen the Browns Fastball team be inducted into the Manitoba Hall of Fame at Portage-la-Prairie this evening. I would also like to thank Bruce Lukey for being the MC this evening and giving an outline on the many years activities of our team. To the caterers, which put up a lovely meal tonight, we'd like to thank all of them. And also, I'd like to thank, big thanks to Dick Harmon and Helen, Stu Harmon, Bob and Sharon Anderson for getting all this information together and handed it to the Manitoba Hall of Fame. I'd also like to thank to Doug Snyder for donating his uniform to the Portage Hall of Fame, and to those who brought their memories to show and share with everyone, from the Melita Museum to Art Godfrey, who was passing by a conversation with Don Robbins, mentioned the team in which he started the ball rolling. No pun intended. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the wives and all their families and friends who traveled so many miles to be here to honor those players, past and present. It is great to see you all here and tonight, and sure, the stories are being told around the table, such as the 5-gallon cooler that we use for lots of breaks after the game. Never before. What did you say? I'm getting thirsty right now. Also, we had a ball that was made out of a watermelon, and it was pitched to Dr. Bonner of Deloraine. And when the pitcher threw the ball, it was just a big splatter. I suppose you all know Dr. Bonner. Another thing that we had was a very large tournament held in Dick Harmon's pasture. That's where we had many diamonds and many teams that came to our tournament out there. And also there was trees planted for shade around the concession booth. I have a story here to mention at this time. In fact, there's 2 stories. They gave me 30 minutes. They said most of them could only have 3. On one trip to Minot, North Dakota for a tournament, a couple of boys went a little early to check out rooms, etc. At about 12 o'clock, they were stopped just outside of West Hope by the patrol officer and escorted them to Bottineau, North Dakota. where they were going to keep them overnight. They did some pretty fast talking, so the officer decided to get the judge. Thank you, Doug. No beer, though. Okay, where they were going to keep them overnight. They did some pretty fast talking, so the officer decided to get the judge. They put them in a cell, and did those doors ever make a bang when they closed them? One guy says, I hope they didn't throw the key away. One fellow said, no, I'm a little ahead of myself here. They closed them in. One fellow said, they didn't say this. I say, holy cow, but they have something written really bad in here. So I have locked us in. The judge appeared in his house coat, white hair, and a cane. One said, uh-oh, here comes one of the three wise men. Not a good thing to say. We told them the situation that we were playing ball at 9 a.m. and had to get to Minot. We didn't have money to pay the fine. One had given his wallet to his wife. One had staples and some washers, so the patrol officers put a little money towards the fine, and we were on our way. They drove ahead, the officer drove ahead of us nearly to Minot. He was driving a Dodge with a dual carburetor, and we were in a 59 Ford that could really move. He said we were smart not to try and outrun him. Anonymous. Okay, one little more story, because it's not going to take you 30 minutes anyways. This one here was pretty cute. We had a tournament in Melita in 1961, and the Brandon Army and Navy were in the finals. And the team they were playing was from Minot, North Dakota. When the Brandon pitcher walked the batter, the third baseman, I could mention the name, but I better not, he might be here, disagreed with the umpire and began chewing him out in no uncertain terms. And when the pitcher became real nasty and was going to beat the umpire up, the umpire put up his hand and declared the game over. And it was. The umpire then walked away and went to his car. In 5 minutes, he returned in full uniform. He was the corporal in the weather detachment. He just walked over to the boys and said, now, what was that you were going to do to me? And the game was really over. Now, who wants to write a book on what we have done with the Browns Ball Club? The Browns send their congratulations to the Boissevain ladies ball team and to the 7 inductees beginning inducted here this evening to the Softball Hall of Fame. Have a great evening, a safe trip home, and thank everyone. Less than 30 minutes.
Heard him called a lot of things. I've never heard him called breaks before. Our first individual inductee is in the athlete category tonight. It's Edna Johnston Calver, who had an illustrious softball career in 2 provinces. This lady was without question one of the top athletes ever to compete in Manitoba. Edna won titles in bowling, tennis, curling, golf, and badminton, but her first love was softball. In 1932, Edna pitched the Brandon Olympias to the Brandon League and Provincial Intermediate Softball titles, the first softball championship ever won by a Western Manitoba team. In 1934, she moved to Winnipeg and pitched for the Tigerettes and Ramblers and was named All-Star pitcher for the next 7 seasons and added a ladies batting championship in 1940 in leading the Ramblers to the provincial championship. In 1941, Edna married Vern Johnston and moved to Sudbury, Ontario, where Vern was playing professional hockey. There she teamed up with Joe Walmsley to play with the Sudbury Nickel Belt team that won the Northern Ontario Championship. Walmsley also happened to play professional ladies softball for weeks at a time in Montreal, and more than once Edna would be imported to pitch in the playoffs. There's no doubt if Edna was performing her athletic feats in today's technological age, she'd be considered one of Canada's best-known athletes. Here to accept Edna Johnston's induction into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame is Edna's daughter, Patricia Lynn.
Okay. Thank you.
Determination and natural athleticism is a dynamic combination. Even though she stood only 5'2" and wore size 5.5 shoes, Edna Calver Johnston excelled in several sports. Born in tiny Marydale, Manitoba, Eddie was a bit of a tomboy. She was an outstanding pitcher and a hitter. In 1934, she established softball history when she hurled a no-hitter, no-run game for Hudson's Bay Beaverettes against Young Women's Hebrew Association in the Commercial Girls Softball League. The game score was 17-0 for the Beaverettes. The Margaret Morey Trophy for the 1934 All-Star Player was presented to Eddie. The excellence continued when she moved to Sudbury. She played for the Fomettes, and as described as one of the Sudbury Star reporters, she allowed only 3 hits and had 4 herself while scoring 3 runs. The final score over the Timmins police team was 14-0. She also excelled in many sports that were mentioned before, and she was an all-around athlete, and she also took on her time to pass on these skills. She coached the Laurentian girls curling team to the final game of the Canadian Championships in the early 70s. My family is very proud of her legacy and hard work, determination, and natural ability. She would be so proud to have been here tonight and be inducted into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. Thank you so much for bestowing this honor upon her.
Our next individual inductee will be enshrined in the builder category, Gordon Wooley. In the late 1960s, Gord Wooley was the Minto Mustangs delegate in the Southwest Men's Fastball League, later becoming president of the league. In the late 1970s, he also became president of the Southwest Girls Fastball League and was the architect of their league constitution. As a member of the Softball Manitoba executive, Gord would spend time after every board meeting at the St. James Hotel with Kent Morgan, answering the same questions about where is Minto anyways? Or how far is Minto? Or how do you get there? Gord was always around the Mustangs to make sure they had the proper coaching accreditation and sometimes just to make sure they had enough players. In addition to his Mustangs duties, Gord also conducted clinics in southwestern Manitoba for 3 decades as a qualified coach, umpire, and pitching technician for Softball Manitoba, and has also made a significant contribution for the last 4 years as a member of the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Selection Committee. A true volunteer, please welcome our latest 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee, Gord Wooley.
Thank you and good evening, family, friends, Mustangs, and fellow inductees. I would like to thank my nominators and the nominating committee for their support. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for the honor of being inducted and this evening's celebrations. I do love the game of softball. In my house, it's right up there with curling. The game has given me some great memories and many lifelong friendships. I was a city kid when I came to Minto with no ball experience, but the boys stuck me in right field, and every now and again I would get a hit and feel like I was helping out a little bit. But I soon realized that my management skills would far outweigh my batting average. My time coaching in minor ball was very much a learning experience. I'm not sure who learned more over the years, the girls or the coaches. With aunts and uncles, daughters and cousins, we pretty much had a family team. But we never did get as famous as the McKays. When Evelyn Alinsky phoned and asked me if I would go to an MSA meeting, I thought that would be an interesting job. I did find working with Manitoba softball very interesting and challenging. We spent many meetings working on draws and changing policy. I spent many summer weekends as a Manitoba softball representative at softball championships all over the province. I have to say it was in that role that I found a new respect for umpires. Working with umpires at the provincials, I discovered the pride and dedication that they had for their role in softball. What do I remember most about my time in softball? While coaching my daughters and nieces from from squirt all the way to the midget provincial was definitely a highlight. The wonderful people I met along the way, the players, the coaches, the executive, the administrators, and even some umpires. The many enjoyable hours I spent playing, coaching, and just watching softball games. Last but not least, it was a Brandon Ladies Softball League windup that I first had my first date with my wife Gwen. So I do owe softball a lot. Again, I'd like to thank everyone involved in this honor. I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee, Beverly Sawchuk, is being inducted into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame in the athlete category. A record of Bev Sawchuk's playing career can be traced back to August of 1958, when a Winnipeg Free Press article talked about a then 13-year-old leading the Chalmers Royals to victory in the junior girls final, having a triple, double, and 2 singles. As a teenager, her chores at home fell by the wayside as sports filled all the time after school and in the evening. We're sure her 2 older sisters did not enjoy the extra work. A graduate of Nelson McIntyre and Glenwood Collegiate, Bev set many high school track and field records, and her high school coach, Bruce Purney, confirmed she could have been an all-star in university. Bev played 8 seasons with the CUAC Blues from 1960 to 1967, being named an all-star in 6 of those 8 years. In 1965, she hit a Grand Slam home run in the A-side final at the Canadian Championship at Winnipeg Stadium, helping the Blues to victory and demoralizing the British Columbia team. The Blues would go on to capture the Canadian title in undefeated fashion. In 1969, Bev moved to Vancouver to play with the British Columbia Ladies Champions and began taking classes at Simon Fraser University. She now has enough education to be a university professor. Ladies and gentlemen, representing 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee Beverly Sawchuk is her sister, Carlisle Andrino.
As a non-athlete, I am deeply honored and humbled to accept this award on behalf of my sister Beverly in her absence. When I sat down to write this letter of this speech of acceptance, a lot of what has already been said was included in my speech, so I won't reiterate it, but it's in your programs and you just heard the gentleman speak of it, but allow me to add to it. It has been said that the best coaches select high caliber players, so we sincerely believe that as good as Bev was, she didn't achieve her success on her own. We would be completely remiss if we failed to acknowledge the roles her coaches played in her success, especially Coach John Shaley, and the many gals who were Bev's teammates over the period that she's played with the Manitoba CWC Blues, circa 1958 to 1968. The game of baseball is a team sport, and there is no doubt that the ability and support of each player contributed toward Bev's success on the ball field. The name Sawchuk is synonymous with various sporting affiliations and well documented in the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. And this evening, we, my sister Joanne and I, are honored that Beverly has been included. Our family would like to thank those responsible for nominating Beverly into this year's Hall of Fame, the executive members, members at large, and volunteers associated with the Manitoba Sports Federation, and the many who worked tirelessly to make this evening such a memorable and successful event. Their incessant efforts are to be commended and acknowledged because of the merits of athletes from the past, present, and into the future are commendable. It's reassuring to us, the family, to know that the athletic contributions of so many will be preserved in perpetuity. We'd also like to congratulate all other inductees and or recipients here this evening. The Malkwich family and Andreo family gratefully accept this award on behalf of our sister Beverly, and be assured that we will treasure it with pride. Thank you.
Our final inductee for the first half of our program tonight is Donald Thom, who's being enshrined tonight in the coaches category. In 1944, Donald Thom came to the small town of Sperling to be the principal and high school teacher at the school, but being a sports enthusiast, he also distinguished himself over the next several years as an excellent softball and track and field coach. By 1947, he had organized his students into an excellent girls' fastball team, so much so that they went undefeated that summer, quite a feat for a small town of 200 people using only the girls from the community. In 1952, the team won the Red River Valley Tournament, the first time that a Manitoba team had won that event. And to date, 6 of those players from the senior and junior teams were in the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. Not only was Donald Thom an excellent coach, he was also a dedicated and friendly educator, speaking to every student by their first name. And we also know that as a teacher and principal at Sperling, when calmly talking to a student, if the student said they would try, Mr. Thom would calmly say that you can complete the task. Ladies and gentlemen, representing 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee Donald Thom is his son, Eddie Thom.
Yes, education and sports were always Don Thom's favorite interest in life. And it was obvious when he was principal and teacher at Sperling, as Bruce said, he really got the students to become athletes, and they were very dedicated, they were talented,
And they did. They put Sperling on the map in track and field and in softball. Now, his favorite sport was girls softball. And as Bruce said, they really accomplished a lot of things in those 6 years that he had them. And a lot of those games in their early times they didn't have a league in the in 47 and 48. And so these girls, they won 40 games in those 2 years playing tournament ball. And I know that Thom, he was a very visionary person. He was dedicated. He was distinguished himself as a coach. And it was through his foresight and his ability to mold these young ladies together. They didn't become just a very good team, they became a great team. Because what makes a great team? First, dedication. Well, Thom, and the Sperling girls had that dedication. And talent, well, that was evident, as Bruce mentioned, that there were 6 of these ladies that became in the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. And thirdly, you have to have a strong will to win. There's strong desire. And these girls didn't want to just win for themselves. They wanted to win for Thom. He was their teacher, their principal, and their coach, and they really highly looked up to him. They really respected him. So for these reasons, the Sperling girls softball team became, I would say, the cream of the crop. They were unbelievable, and they were the best girls fastball team in that area. And I would just at this time like to thank the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame for inducting Dad in the coaches category. I'd also like to thank Grace Bouchard and Mona Bilton. They were 2 of Dad's players and students, and I know that they were the ones that had a lot to do with getting Dad nominated into the Hall of Fame. So thank you very much.
That brings an end to the first half of our induction ceremony. How about one last round of applause for our first round of inductees? We're going to take a short intermission. That's going to allow our host committee to get our second set of inductees or their representatives ready. And also be your last chance to buy some rainbow auction tickets. Those will be available by the auction prizes on my right. I would ask the inductees or their representatives from the 63 to 68 Boissevain Border Queens, Leslie Perot, Steve Bergson, and Jim Ney to please assemble to the, left of the stage, my right-hand side. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could get you to return to your seats, we'll begin the second half of our induction ceremony. Run back, and we'll begin the second part of our induction ceremony here for our 11th annual Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame induction ceremony. To begin our induction, our second team of the evening, the Boissevain Border Queens. We all know it takes a lot of time and effort to assemble a quality team, and apparently it also takes a lot of time and effort to assemble a team's uniforms. As Myrna Hall's mother, Mrs. Black, and her friends bought a couple of bolts of material to make the first uniforms for the Border Queens. Each season, the Border Queens, along with another local ball team, would host an annual tournament looking after all the organization and promotion of the event, along with playing in the tournament. And when not at home, the Border Queens would often travel to tournaments on the team bus. Although no one can tell why, after day games, it never got home before dark, and was often spotted outside the Minto Hotel. From 1963 to 1968, the Border Queens were one of the top teams in Southwest Manitoba, winning the Southwest Ladies League and the Mel Pringle Trophy in 1967. That same season, the team won 8 out of 11 tournaments and won prize money in the other 3. The following year, in 1968, the team captured the Ladies Intermediate Provincial Trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, being inducted into the 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame, the 1963 to 68 Boissevain Border Queens. Norma Arnold.
Congratulations, Norman. Get her a mug shot. We'll put numbers across.
Judy Burton.
Congratulations.
Betty Chalner.
Hi, Betty. Congratulations. You get her a mug shot here.
Okay, we gotta get this thing
Oh,
right.
right to the heart.
Yeah, right to the heart.
Thank you.
Laura Cuvalier.
Congratulations, Laura. We'll get her a picture here. Thank you.
Betty Devons.
Congratulations, Betty.
Shirley Forrester.
Congratulations, Shirley. We'll get her a picture here.
Pat Gibson.
Congratulations, Pat.
Barb Glover.
Congratulations, Barb.
Pat Goldie. Liz Gutman.
Liz, she said, yeah, that's right. Come on this way. Congratulations, Liz.
Myrna Hall.
Congratulations. Come on this way.
Margaret Hammond.
Congratulations, Barbara. Well deserved. Got a lot of moves. Mental bars.
Grace Jones.
Thank you. Congratulations, Grace. Come on this way, Dirk. Really want to see that front and center there. There you go.
Lori Langton.
Congratulations, Rick.
Dawn Lucy.
Congratulations, Don. Get your picture there, my dear.
Lorna McClenahan.
Lauren, you got your name? Lauren? Okay, dear, come on. Can you manage, sir? Come on, I'll help you. There you go. We'll get her mugs up.
Chris Moore.
Well, I knew you.
Jane Martin. Leonie Hooper. Lori Park. Sharon Patterson.
Congratulations, Sharon. You're welcome. Keep that picture front and center, close to your heart there. Very good.
George Bus Riddell, represented by Eugene McCausland.
Congratulations, sir. We'll get your picture there. Height.
Doreen Riddell.
Congratulations.
Lynn Shipley. Phyllis Struth.
Congratulations, Philip.
Marilyn Weems. Unable to be with us here tonight, Audrey McKinney. And last but not least, Nita Maines. Now I'd like to welcome Nita to speak on behalf of the team and her teammates.
On behalf of the team members, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame for honoring us with this award. He mentioned Audrey Moak, and that's the only one person that isn't able to be here with us out of the group, and her family, she's deceased, and her family were with us last night from BC, but they had to go back for commitments. So we had 100% attendance of the group that were sent the nominee letters, so that's pretty good, I think. I would like to thank all the team members that are here tonight for all their dedication through the years. We also want to thank family and friends who made an effort to be with us this evening to celebrate. Many came from quite a distance. I hope everyone from the group is enjoying the weekend as a time to reminisce and to think about all the good times we had as a team. And I just want to say congratulations from our team to all the nominees that are here tonight. Thank you.
Our next individual inductee, May Toogood, is being honored in the athlete category. May Toogood was impressive as a teenage pitcher for the Medley softball team in tournaments against Portage, Sperling, St. Boniface, and the CUAC Blues. When farm work was slow, May could be found targeting the barn door with a sizzling fastball. And after finding employment in Winnipeg, she continued to practice, but practice was then conducted in the back lane on Langside Street where her friend Gladys Sorensen lived. May Toogood joined the Winnipeg Ramblers in 1955 as a shortstop, but would soon be recognized as an ace pitcher. She helped the Ramblers to the Manitoba Senior Girls Softball Tournament titles in 1955 and 1957. May Toogood pitched so often and so successfully, her teammates called her the gal with the spaghetti arm. So beloved by her teammates, every one of them attended her funeral following her untimely death in August of 1958. Ladies and gentlemen, representing 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee May Toogood, her niece, Leslie Perot.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of May Toogood's family, we are extremely honored to accept acknowledgement of May's dedication and passion to the sport of softball. May Toogood was many things to many people. She was a daughter, a sister, a best friend, a fiancée, a niece, and an aunt. In the softball community, she was her opposition's worst nightmare, while she was the Ramblers' diamond. At home on the farm in Beverly, Manitoba, when work on the farm was a little slack, May would be found targeting the barn door with her sizzling fastball. She played shortstop, a keen athlete. May eventually developed into an incredible powerhouse pitcher for the Winnipeg Ramblers. The pitcher we honor today. Suddenly, in August of 1958, at the age of 21, May passed away of a brain aneurysm. Her legacy and love for the game still has a very strong presence in her family's lives today. As a family, we would like to thank Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame, and especially Alan Sharp, for recognizing May's accomplishments in her short baseball career. I would also like to acknowledge two ladies sitting in the audience here tonight that played an important role in May's life. Can you please stand up? May's sister, Helen Liebert, and her best friend, Gladys Sorensen. We are thrilled to accept this honored award in memory of May.
Our next inductee, Steve Bergson, is being inducted in the all-around category. Steve Bergson grew up on the western shores of Lake Manitoba near Amaranth, and softball was played everywhere, in the farmyard, schoolyard, at Sunday picnics, and local community tournaments. In 1961, Steve took summer employment in Portage-la Prairie and was promptly recruited by Peter Duas to catch for the Portage Bisons in the Intermediate A Central Manitoba Fastball League. Duas, of course, was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2006, so obviously he knew a thing or two about talent. Steve would play in the Central Manitoba Fastball League for the next 15 years, winning 7 league championships with the Bisons, Seals, and Clubbers. Steve also became a tireless behind-the-scenes worker in fast pitch, minor ball, slow pitch coaching, and administration. In 1976, he left the softball Diamonds to head up Portage Minor Baseball and was instrumental in the introduction of the annual player and coaching development programs. While involved in minor ball, 2 uniformed RCMP officers, who were serving as coaches, pulled up in Steve's driveway to pick up some equipment. Afterward, one of the neighbor's boys came over and asked Steve, "Did you really steal all that stuff?" A true volunteer, please welcome our latest 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee, Steve Bergson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Inductees and representatives, special guests here tonight, and certainly ladies and gentlemen. Last November, when I received a call from Wendell Keeler saying that I had been selected for induction into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame, tremendous thrill. Awesome. After the initial excitement, I thought, what an honor to join the ranks of the remarkable athletes, dedicated coaches, builders, officials, and some remarkable teams like the teams you've seen here tonight. It's a great honor. But at the same time, I think it was very humbling because there's so many individuals that have contributed so much to the game over the years, certainly more than I. It's not something you aspire to achieve. It's never about the recognition, certainly. You simply contribute to the game for the love of the game. As I've always stated, you have to take more to the diamond than your glove. When I arrived in Portage-la Prairie in 1961, I was recruited, as was mentioned. And today, entering season 52, the game goes on. It's just kind of like extra innings. And there have been highlights, certainly over those years, and I'll only touch on a few. But
capturing the Central Manitoba Fastball League Championship in 1961 as a teenager, dethroning the Portage Mercuries that were 7-time intermediate champs, 3-time provincial champs, was an honor. The 5 consecutive titles with the Portage Bisons between 1965 and 69, and again in 74 further. So 8 league championships with the Portage Wintergreens in the Portage District Liniment League. That was a fun league. I consider slow pitch an old man's recreation, but it was fun. Being selected as the Outstanding Volunteer in Sport Award for the City of Portage la Prairie in 1980 certainly was an honor. I appreciate it. When we competed in the Senior World Championships, slow pitch championships in Kansas City in 1995, and again in Winnipeg in 2000, 2003, I was a playing coach and manager. We played teams from Los Angeles to New Jersey, from Minnesota to Miami. And that was a great experience. There was a funny story. We went up this in Kansas City to play Vacation Break, which is a team out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A player came up to Kenny Lee, one of our players, and he said, "When do you play ball up there in Canada?" He said, "It's so cold." Kenny looked at him with a smug smile and kind of a smirk, and he said, "Well, we ice fish in the morning." He said, "Then we try and get a practice in the afternoon." The fellow looked at him and said, "Oh, yeah, okay." Either we didn't practice it enough or it snowed that July because those devils beat us. We traveled to the Los Angeles Dodger training camp in Vero Beach. It was mentioned I was involved with Portage Minor Baseball in the spring of 1990 to visit a young man I coached. When he introduced me to Sandy Koufax and Johnny Roseborough as my coach from Canada, it was an honor, it was a thrill, and I certainly remember. I have been fortunate enough to chair a number of, along with excellent volunteers of our city, many highly successful tournaments. The first one was in 1971, won by Devil's Lake. That was over 40 years ago. The next one was July the 18th and 19th in Portage, if you're interested. I'm thrilled to have so many friends and teammates from Portage la Prairie and Winnipeg present to share this special event with me tonight. There's teammates here from the Portage area spanning 6 decades. Played ball with Lou Gorski in 1962 and Doug Treffry in 75, and Cyril Gervais, Doug Blake, Metro Stefanish, Robert Rogers, Jimmy Kirkup, Gord Zahara, Lynn Switzer, and Barry Sadler, all guys that I've played with over the past 6 decades. Thank you guys for being here, great teammates, I appreciate it. I won't be much longer. Just on a personal note, you can't do these things independently. I've been blessed with a loving wife, Joyce, who shares my sporting interests. After this many years, I think it's important. She's probably kept score of 80% of the games that I've ever played, coached, or managed. Not to mention taking tournament entries, doing the draws and things like that. She knows all the managers by first name now, I'm sure. And I'm proud to say, too, that our children, Perry, Cheryl, and Gary, have all played, coached, and or managed softball, baseball, hockey, ringette, SPN nationals, international soccer tournaments in the U.S., and also Perry's triathlon and Ironman competitions in Manitoba, Alberta, and in the United States. I'm pleased that they're here tonight, and they've also been involved in sports, and that's important to our family. Just in, if I can get these pages apart. As I mentioned, sports has been a cornerstone in our family for many years. I believe Perry, our son Perry, summed it up when he was a recipient of the 2011 Brandon Power to Inspire Award. He was a recipient of that last year for his dedicated work with the Brandon Triathlon Club. His response was simply, he was happy to pay it forward. And I guess that's what it's all about. Many of you saw the movie Moneyball. Brad Pitt says to Jonah Hill, "It's not about the money." And I'm sure Gord, Wooley, and Jim Ney and other people like that will agree. Just in closing, I would like to congratulate the other inductees, the team representatives, or their team members or representatives here tonight. I would also like to thank the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Committee for their tireless and dedicated work for preserving softball, recognizing achievement over the past number of years. The Independent Selection Committee, the Media conference committee. There's a ton of committees that do a lot of work, and I certainly appreciate it. This has been a tremendous honor for me, and I deeply appreciate it. Thank you very much to all.
Our final inductee this evening is Jim Ney in the builder category. Jim Ney was born in Regina and raised in Ninga, Manitoba. And after high school in Boissevain, Jim went to school in Brandon, worked in Thompson, was transferred to Gagnonville, Quebec, moved back to Winnipeg, was transferred to Calgary, and returned to Brandon in 1988. Despite living in 3 different provinces, he continuously showed his enthusiasm for volunteer work. During his close to 4 decades of involvement in the sport of softball, Jim has served in more than 100 different capacities with teams and softball organizations, sometimes many of them at the same time. From trainer, statistician, and assistant coach with the Alberta Break Senior A Men's Fastball Club in the mid-1980s, to president of Westman Softball Association in the Brandon Commercial Men's Fastball League, to his involvement in various capacities with Softball Canada, Softball Manitoba, and the Western Canadian Softball Association. Jim has been teaching coaches clinics since 1984 in Alberta and throughout Manitoba, and even in the last 3 years has been called upon 9 times to teach clinics in northern Manitoba. Jim has put in an incalculable number of volunteer hours with his dedication to softball maintained at all levels in this province. Please welcome our latest 2012 Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame inductee, Jim Ney.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to thank Murray for nominating me for this award. Honors aren't expected. They kind of just happen, which has happened to me. I wasn't expecting this at all. Like, if you look back at when I started this silly game about age 5 or 6, hitting rocks over the farmyard fence, I thought to myself, if I could get good at this, I'm going to be inducted in the Softball Manitoba Hall of Fame. On the topic of Murray Blight, I'd like to thank you for one of the rules we have in place today. For those that know Murray, he used to be a pitcher a lot of years ago. He threw the ball awfully hard, had no clue where I was going though. So that's why we have the rule in place for helmets today. Families are very, very important to all of us. I have 2 families. Most of my immediate family is sitting over there. Sisters, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, whatever. My children are there. It wasn't until about a week ago that I knew my son was coming over from Calgary. My wife spilled the beans. Those of us in softball also have a second family. It's our softball family. In some cases, your softball family is closer to you than your immediate family. Most of my family, immediate family, has played softball or ball over the years. My grandson played for 5 years. He's now age 10. He gave it up for some silly thing called soccer. Yeah. One day, a couple of years ago, I was talking to him. I knowing that he played ball, soccer, he'd fished, he'd golfed, he'd curled, whatever. I said, Zach, what is your favorite sport? He said, softball. Because you can help me, Papa. I just about cried. On the topic of family again, I had 3 cousins tonight inducted from the Boissevain Border Queens. There's 3 of us from Ninga, my hometown of 90 people. Wow, all got inducted tonight. My first involvement as an administrator in this game, as Bruce mentioned, came a lot of years ago. Johnny Unrock from Ninga invited me to be treasurer of the Senior A Men's Fastball League. I accepted. Over the years, I've been a player, coach, teacher, clinician, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't the greatest player, but I didn't care. I could drink beer with the rest of them. I've truly enjoyed coaching and teaching the game. Coaching, the last 19 years, I guess I've coached elite young ladies. When you get involved with elite young ball players, or elite ball players, period, one thing that really stands out, that's their work ethic. If they're good enough to play sport of any sort and do well at it, they're very, very strong academically, and their life skills are very, very strong. Some of the kids I've coached over the years, they've gone on to be police officers, certified accountants, certified public accountants, etc., etc. Just very, very strong people. As far as teaching and clinics are concerned, yes, I've taught a number of clinics in the north and all, mostly southern Manitoba and into Winnipeg and some in Alberta. That's a real joy when you get out there with someone who really had little or no skills at all, and all of a sudden the light comes on. They think they can do what you're asking them to do. That's dealing with the young people of the game. I've also, since 1984, taught coaches how to teach the game. That is another experience that I get as well. Thinking back to some of the clinics we've taught, ask Brett or Rich about one of their favorite clinics, and they got to deal with Princess and Chevy. Chevy, I think, was about the size of a Chevy. I've had the privilege of traveling through most of Canada and some places in the U.S. through ball, whether it be to championships, to meetings, to whatever. I've enjoyed every moment of those. Every place I went, I met someone that became very close to me. They were good people, not necessarily good softball people. They're just very strong people. About 10 years ago, the Softball Canada annual general meeting was being hosted in Winnipeg. Because I lived in Brandon, I couldn't really help out a whole lot at the meeting, or arranging the meeting. So Don Klim, the executive director for South Manitoba, asked if I would be the Walmart greeter, greeting people at the airport. I said, sure, I know most of the people coming in. There were somewhere in excess of 100 people coming in. I knew all but 4 of them. Les Newman asked me some time ago to list some of the awards I won. Well, I don't want to do that. There's 2 awards that I won over the years that really meant a lot to me. One was when I was coaching a men's team out of Calgary. We were playing a tournament in Pincher Creek, Alberta. It was in the final game. We were playing the local team, having a great game. All of a sudden, their last pitcher gets injured, cannot continue. They wanted to play. We wanted to play. The people in the stands wanted to see a game. So I made the suggestion to their staff and the umpires, let's let them go find a pitcher somewhere. In the stands, whatever, in the beer garden, we didn't care. They did. We wound up having one hell of a good game, and everybody appreciated the efforts that both teams gave. I was awarded the most sportsmanlike. It's not heard of as a coach. So that really meant something to me. Another award I got was, I don't even know what the award was for, supplemental award, administrator, builder, whatever, organizer. The award meant something to me, yes, but not nearly as much as the man that presented it to me and the man whose name was on that award. A number of us know Jim Adams, fantastic individual, he's left us now, but that award meant something to me only because of the man's name that was on it. In closing, I'd like to thank my family, Trudy, Brad and Janice, for all the years they put up with me and my involvement in softball. My wife's name was mentioned earlier tonight because she's a gullible individual, same as I am. They said yes to the police officer that wanted to hug me earlier tonight, Mr. Blight. She is the person in charge of memorabilia and the secretary of this event. Over the years, she has said yes to just about everything I asked of her to do. I said, I'm involved in this event. Do you want to do something? So what are you asking me to do? I said, I didn't ask you to do anything. I asked you if you wanted to. She said, sure, why not? So, thanks, Judy. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Janice.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our last group of inductees one more round of applause as a group.